Hello and welcome to the FSF PopCast Live Edition. Hello, kids and cadets. Hi. Welcome to the FSF. Exactly. Welcome to the FSF PopCast, our live show. This is the live edition. I want to see how many times I could say live in the first 30 seconds. So far, we've got about 4 of them. Anyway, this is the show that got lightsabers and went all Anakin. We'll try that one more time. The show that got lightsabers and went all Anakin, you know, Order 66 style.
Not the younglings.
Yes.
Definitely the younglings.
All right.
It depends on the younglings.
Yeah, maybe. Before we get into
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we gonna do? Take a lightsaber to the grill. Anyway, all right.
Before we get into tonight's show, we need to go over our wonderful show partners, Level Up Sabers and Monkey Cult Coffee.
All right, and I don't know what's first. I'm gonna go Level Up Sabers. Let's say that one's first this time. It won't. All right, that's 1. And number 2, because it's coffee. Number 2.
I was told there's a poop joke in here somewhere.
Sorry, the poop joke
That's
got stuck.
I just want to
got
point
slid
out
into number 2.
I have a brand new lightsaber from Level Up Sabers.
Yes, for your fabulous anniversary presents.
Yeah.
Happy early
They're delightful.
anniversary.
Look at how cool this lightsaber is. It's so amazing.
What hilt is that?
This is the Yojimbo. It's based off of the movie of the same name. It's so beautiful, and there are so many fonts. But hang on, I have to show you my favorite one. Let me see if I can find it.
Push the right combination of buttons.
Nope, that's not it. Which, by the way, there's an app. So I'm literally flipping through the app for that.
That is fascinating. Mine does not have an app.
So while he's looking for that, just as a reminder, we are now partnering with the good folks over at Monkey Cult Coffee. So if you go to monkeycultcoffee.com, use the code FSF10 rather, at checkout, you will get not only 10% off of your order, but a donation is made to the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every bag that is ordered. So you get good coffee, and you get to help out some sick kids, which is just amazing that that's part of what they're doing. So anyway, just as a reminder.
That Ben has? Did he find it?
Yes, Ben. What is the font? Did you find it? How about now?
I did not find it. It just turned off. It turned off my lightsaber. Whoops. Hang on. I'm still going through it.
We'll come back. We'll come back to Ben in a moment when his.
I found a bunch of hangnails with my nail polish.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
So yes.
So anyway, if you want to hear us talk more about hangnails and apps that don't work, click that button at the bottom of the screen that says subscribe, because this is the only place really where you're going to get this type of quality content, on the internet, and we want to make sure that you please come back, please. But yeah, and in case you haven't seen it, we also have a Stargate page. Goodness gracious, it's spreading. We have a Patreon page, which is patreon.com/FSF Podcast. You go there, we've got some great reviews of Stargate, but also we've got some great behind the scenes and bonus content for you to watch. We have 5 different levels starting at $1, going all the way up to $40, and each one has different levels of awesome merch that you can't get anywhere else, and free perks and bonuses that come with being a Patreon member. So, yeah, there's a point when trying to be better than a stick makes a lightsaber problematic.
Yeah, a little bit. But by the way, I got it. I figured it out. So this is it.
Ooh.
It's a Sailor
Okay, well, the
Moon
cool
font.
part is...
Oh, it's deleting my X-Wing.
Yeah, but as you do... No, it makes it look like it's got smoked out. It looks like a smoke bomb went off behind you. It's kind of cool.
It is a rainbow flame blade.
That's cool.
Really hard to say. Rainbow flame.
All right.
Yeah, you gotta like pace yourself when you say
Rainbow
flame blade. Yeah, we're idiots. We all just try to say it. Okay. Well, you know what? Before we get any stupider and this gets any farther down the... No, it's not really. So we're going to bring in our guest and let him try and save us. Good luck with that, Josh. Yep. So our guest is Josh from the Quest Me podcast. Hey, Josh, you're muted.
I am muted. Hello. God, if you ever watch Quest Me, that's like a thing.
It's a thing here, too,
I was gonna come in and say something witty, like, I don't know, this is where the fun begins or something, but then I was muted, and it's just messed up. So, hi.
Yeah, I get it.
Welcome to our train wreck.
Yeah, it's par for the course.
I can't.
All right, Josh.
Before anything.
Well, before anybody turns the channel, why don't you make sure you tell everybody where they can find the Quest Me podcast and all the stuff that's going on?
Oh, absolutely. So Quest Me, we just finished up our latest kind of season-ish, talking about Ahsoka. And we're coming back in a couple weeks to wrap up the Thrawn trilogy, the OG Thrawn trilogy. So one of our co-hosts never read those books, and so we decided to do a big review on it. There's the Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising reviews are up on the interwebs. Just search Quest Me podcast and you can find them. But then, that new one will be coming out here in a few weeks. We'll start that going. I did just start a new podcast. If you guys are into hockey, I'm a huge hockey fan. I love the Colorado Avalanche.
Ew.
So we're doing a Colorado Avalanche podcast called Down the Mountain. And we are recording our second episode tonight, actually, after this wonderful.
I made sure that I had this handy just because.
Oh yeah, you guys.
Let's go Red Wings.
I wish that Avs and Red Wings still had a rivalry, because that was a great rivalry back in the day.
Oh, it was one of the most. It was one of the best, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know sports.
So,
you know what's funny is that is actually like one of my early hockey memories is the fight night. Like my dad and my brothers watching it on TV and being like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
I love that Ben's over there like, sports ball. That's a sport.
Yeah,
what's a sports ball?
That's where you get a stick and you put a thing in a net, right?
Yeah, you did it.
Loose leaf tea. Ben is all over it, right?
I have
with both feet. Yes.
More time learning about tea than I've ever cared about any kind of sport. So
fair. That's fair. Some people care about sports. Some people care about Star Wars. Some people care about tea.
All right, before we get into tonight's topic, we just want to say thanks to Jesse's Tea House as well. They are not a sponsor of our show, but we could talk about it. But yeah, tonight I'm drinking and I know I can't pronounce it, but it's called the Bilochan. I think it's pronounced. Am I close?
It's close enough.
All right, we're gonna go with it. Bilochan green tea. I'm drinking that tonight. And
I have the Funding white tea. Comes in like a little tea brick. It's really, really good.
I'm not even using my cat mug.
How dare you?
He's drinking tea crack, basically. Yes. It's a rock. What are you drinking over there, Josh?
Just green tea. Just bagged green tea. I know that's a sin on here, but I do have my Star Wars.
It's all right, Josh. I'm also drinking bagged tea tonight, but it's because it's ginger tea.
Oh, yeah.
It is cold and flu season, so I have the ginger tea with the probiotics.
That's exactly where I'm at, too. It's a green tea with ginger in it. So,
but that's not a
This
tea.
is one of my absolute...
That's an infusion.
It's a green drink. How about
I am drinking the probiotic infusion before I am going and being in a room with 1,000 people this weekend, and I hope that I don't come back horribly, horribly ill.
Ooh.
All All right. So just so I can say this without Ben interrupting.
He's gone.
He's gone. So I drink this throat comfort tea during cold and flu season, and I ended up just actually liking all of it. Hi Ben, you can come back in now.
Yeah. All right.
I actually really
get it.
like
It's fine.
So I know that they're sacrilegious, horrible teas, but I also really like the herbal cold care one and the echinacea one for cold and flu season.
Oh, yeah, that's good too. We like our tea dust, Ben. Just deal with it.
I struggle though with the throat coat one because of the yuckiness, and then I have to put honey in it to make it less yucky.
Yeah, I feel like it leaves a film on your mouth.
Well, this is throat comfort, not throat coat.
Right, but I think the throat comfort one still has licorice root in it. I think we talked about this before, and licorice root is disgusting.
Oh,
that I can agree with.
So they both have licorice root, but I really enjoy black licorice. So that's one of my favorite candies.
You would,
and you know one of the reasons why I like it.
I judge you more
for why I like it.
Drinking bag
because
tea.
Nobody else will eat it.
Boom! I buy black licorice. It's my candy. Nobody else eats it. I don't have to worry about it. So suck it, Trebek. All right. So we've got a topic tonight that's not tea or candy related.
My mom loves black licorice, and it's really funny. Is now my 9-year-old nephew does too, and he steals it from her.
There you go.
Ooh.
There you go. See,
I used this coffee mug just for you tonight, John. Don't be mean.
And John,
never gonna happen. Also, if you
so good though,
I don't think though that my husband being part of our Patreon is really going to help us any. I mean,
no, not really. No, it's kind of self-defeating at that point. All right, so guys, we do actually have a topic tonight, and that topic is all about this little fella right here, Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, how did Anakin Skywalker go through all the things he did to end up being this fella? Thank you, Funko Pops, for our great visual effects.
He's a person.
He's a person. But yeah, so this episode is actually titled Anakin Skywalker and the Search for Therapy. So
it's raining.
So yeah. So let's start off talking about the of Anakin Skywalker.
No, Tim.
Go back to
Tim, are you alive again? You're back.
Did I blip?
Oh, badly.
You stopped moving. Heavy robot voice, and now you're coming in at like 240p.
You almost got Thanos'd. That was
just
nice. All right, I'm gonna click a button here, and we're gonna see what happens. But before I click it, I'm gonna give you a topic. Discuss amongst yourselves. Prequel era Anakin Skywalker. What was the perception back then, and what is the perception of him now? And I'm going to click my button. We're going to see if I stick around or if I come back.
Let's find out. So, while Tim's disappearing into the Netherverse,
as he's just
frozen.
Staring at us.
We'll see if he comes back. Perception then versus now. I would say then, like vehement hatred. Like there was a large group of incredibly vocal people who, I mean, we have actual evidence of random Star Wars fans sending death threats to people.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's still unfortunately happening now with the sequels and everything, but back then, the amount of absolute just bile people would throw.
And that's dedication too, because you're not just going on social media. You're like writing a letter.
Yeah,
because figuring out where to send this and then sending it off. Like there's a lot of hate that goes in to sending someone that kind of mail back in the 90s.
Yeah, like early 2000s, because Phantom Menace was 99, and that Anakin literally We have two Tims.
That's terrifying.
There we go.
Double the pleasure, double the pain.
Kid Anakin stopped acting because they got so many.
Yeah.
Like the whole situation was really messed up.
And Jake Lloyd has gone through so much therapy since he played Anakin and had to go in and out of like institutions and stuff to just, I mean, that kid was like 9 years old. 8 years old when he played that, and the amount of like grumpy old men that were upset that he was Anakin was astronomical. It was crazy. I couldn't like. How old were you guys when Phantom Menace came out?
22.
7.
6.
Right. So
Almost 23, actually.
Aside from Grandpa, like we were all in the prime age for Star Wars, right? And so like Anakin, I loved him when I was a kid. I really liked Anakin.
Take my ball and I'm going home.
He was our age. It was a character we could relate to on some level with the, hey, there's a kid. Yeah.
Right. And I think the hate then it's the same with Hayden Christensen, you know, like nowadays everyone loves Hayden because all of those people that loved him when he was, you know, when we were kids are now adults and we can actually express that love. And so I feel like Jake Lloyd really got the shit end of the stick there. Sorry for swearing, but he got really screwed out of the Star Wars fandom, I think, and it was really sad because I don't think he did that bad. Look, when you're working with George Lucas and you have to deal with his dialogue and the way that he directs, no one's going to be good.
It was definitely
it's not the kid's fault.
Yeah, right. It's definitely. This is the part that really bothers me is when people like violently go after an actor for dialogue, and it's their job to say the script. They cannot alter the script. I mean, even if they can, it's only if you're like Robert Downey Jr. level.
Right. And even at that, you're saying that words on the page that are handed to you, this is what you're to say. You just put it to life. So, and then there's also a second caveat to that. So here's what he's supposed to say, but now he's got this person over here saying, this is how you're supposed to say it. This is how I want you to portray it. Right. So now you've not only gone from having, the kid being, reciting somebody else's words, but he's reciting them in a way that somebody else wants him to say it. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing that Ahmed Best went through.
Exactly.
I don't care if you don't like Jar Jar. I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Jar Jar fan. I've made no secret of that throughout the course of my life. But
picked up my Jar Jar figure this last week.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I don't care if you like Jar Jar or not. Going after Ahmed Best and getting him to the point where he wants to, take his own life is just unconscionable.
And it's hard too. It's like we had said though, you're going after a kid, you're going after Ahmed Best, you're going after actors. Why did nobody go after George Lucas?
Because he's George Lucas.
Because he's Lucas and he made Star Wars, therefore can do no wrong, but bad Star Wars. Yeah. I know.
So here's the thing, and speaking for the age of kids that were coming up through the era of the original trilogy, because I was 8 when Jedi came out. Okay, so most of the kids and the people who saw the original trilogy in the theater or were watching them in the VHS as they grew up, and all these different things. Everything that Lucas did was seen through rose-colored glasses. Oh, he's the creator. Everything he does is holy. Everything he did was perfect. And it didn't matter that there was a cluster of mistakes. If you really go back and look at it, the original trilogy with honest eyes, there are so many mistakes in those movies, not just in the dialogue, but in the way that the movies are cut and edited and everything else. They're still good movies. They're still my favorite all-time favorite movies. But you have to look at it honestly and say, okay, so if Lucas made mistakes there, we have to conclude that he's going to make mistakes when he has pushed somebody else out of the director's chair, pushed somebody else out of the producer's chair, and he is in an echo chamber of his own thoughts.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best stuff we've ever had in Star Wars, though it might have come from George Lucas's mind. I mean, look at Empire.
Didn't Spielberg direct that?
The best.
Or no,
George Lucas was pushed away. Like, he created the general premise, but you had so many writers, directors, producers, like so many people that were like, "Hey, George, we get it, but step over
he had somebody else. He had somebody else speaking into his ear." Right. And so when you go to the prequel era, and by the way, hi, Science Fictionary. Welcome to the show. And Jason Taylor. Jason Taylor from 3 Geeks Podcast. Go check them out, guys. So, but when you look back at the prequel era and you look at everything going on with Anakin Skywalker, with Jake Lloyd as a character, acting the character of young Anakin Skywalker, and then Hayden taking it over, of course they're going to have bad dialogue. of course they're going to have poorly written and scripted scenes, poorly built character and story.
I don't like sand.
Honestly,
as much as the meme of I don't like sand is, when Anakin is trying to like woo Padme and going, I am in agony. I'm like, George, listen, buddy.
Have you ever talked to a girl?
It's like,
no.
I understand you have actually had multiple wives. But oh,
now we understand why you've had multiple.
But also, I will still take I hate sand. It gets into everything over somehow Palpatine returned any day of the week.
100%.
I will take Are You an Angel over somehow Palpatine returned all day long.
Oh, yeah. At least that one was cute.
Right? It is.
We're not going to talk
about
it
is because it's little Anakin and he's.
We're not going to talk about the huge age gap, though.
Well, I mean, I had a friend.
Let's not talk about the grooming.
I had a friend growing up whose younger brother, the first time he met me, told me that he wanted to spend forever with me under a rainbow. So the "Are You an Angel" is adorable.
Yeah.
Well, and technically, Padme was only 5 years older than Anakin.
Yes. John brought up a good point.
There's no grooming.
Right. There's 13 years between me and my husband. It's fine.
See?
John brought up a good point of that a lot of people have criticized Hayden's like how he said things in the prequels. If you put it through like a deeper voice changer or something, also correct fair. On that. If you
I'm gonna make a meme out of that.
If you just turn down the tone of Hayden's voice, it just straight up is Vader. That
right.
was the entire point.
Yeah. And it's very much like the same thing that Ewan McGregor's cadence is just Alec Guinness. Like they're just
younger.
They're just showing you who the characters are, guys. Like, yeah.
So, but I am appreciative of the fact that now we're in an era where Hayden is getting the respect and the love that he should have gotten in the first three movies. And people can say that his acting was wooden and his character, all these different things. But again, we have to look back at how was he written, how was he directed. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you have to put a lot of that on the writer and the director. If the director wants him to act in a certain way or portray this in a certain way.
He's also a teenage boy.
Yeah. He was
teenage boys don't make sense.
He was 19
That's for dang sure.
Ish. But not only that, but going from people actually hating him as a person for bad acting when he did an amazing job, and then going from all that violent hatred to round of applause, standing and cheering for him showing up at Star Wars Celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Which I absolutely loved.
First off, where was that energy when he was starting out? Where was that energy?
At home because all the kids couldn't go.
Right? True. Those of us who loved him were not old enough to drive yet, let alone for Star Wars.
And honestly, Josh, I'm right there with you. When we're at Star Wars convention, when he came out and he got that massive standing ovation,
I love it.
Choked up, just absolutely choked up. It's awesome.
I wasn't even
just absolutely amazing.
I was the floodgates open. And I'm just like, it's my boy,
right.
It's my boy Hayden.
But it's so good to see him get that love that he deserved.
That was far too close to Cedric Diggory's dad. My boy.
So
speaking of that, I'm literally making that meme right now.
Please. But with that, you also have to when he showed up in Ahsoka, everyone was like, "It's Anakin." But
John's also not wrong here.
Yeah. Okay.
This won't work, Anakin.
This also comes down to George Lucas being weird. The fact that during the emotional love declaration scene, Padme showing up in like a BDSM dress, everyone's like, hang on a minute.
Oh, no,
what's going on here? Georgie boy, what's up?
No boy's saying no to that.
What drove him to the dark side? That.
Boobs.
That fine-looking woman over there. That's what did it. Yeah. I get it.
Man,
maybe
I might go to the dark side.
I mean, I guess I could.
If you wanted
That
to,
episode 2, the end of episode 2, that was like, I think I was probably 12 when that came out. Woof! First crush right there. That little
I
belly
get it.
shirt she had going on. Ooh.
there. Anyway,
So yeah, so I mean,
we're talking about
there's-
Anakin.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, we still are,
But
but just
all
in a
of the
very
surrounding
roundabout way.
characters have to be talked about
I
too.
know.
But so yeah, so we have a change in perception of Anakin's character from then to now. But more or less, I think the change in the perception is also reflective of the change on how the actors are viewed.
Yes.
Because had the characters, I mean, people always loved Darth Vader, but they never really loved Anakin when he first came out and
Right.
through the prequels. Everybody wanted to see Darth Vader. Nobody wanted to see Anakin. Now, everybody wants to see Anakin because of, and I'll fight this till my dying breath. It's not
Rogue
only
One.
because of, no, it's because of the animated series.
Yeah, it's Clone
Well, that
Wars.
too.
If
That's-
it wasn't for Clone Wars, everybody got just a better sense of who Anakin Skywalker is. Now, of course, that's not Hayden Christensen. That's Matt Lanter doing the voicing.
Mhm.
But Matt Lanter also does it in a way, in a style that was very similar to what Hayden was doing on screen, so that the characters were matching,
Yeah.
in cadence and style and everything else. And so you can't tell me that there isn't a difference of appreciation for Anakin Skywalker because of Attack, or not Attack of the Clones, but the Clone Wars animated series, rather.
This is where that weird, like, mental, pretty much just like the connection between actor and character, for whatever reason, cannot be broken. So even though animated Anakin was voiced by a completely different person, people saw what they considered better version of Anakin, and that love then transferred to Hayden Christensen. And
I don't think you're entirely wrong on that. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with literally any other character for the most part. Every time I see Viggo Mortensen, I'm like, oh, Aragorn, but he's a cowboy. Aragorn, but he's a this and a that. Same thing with Ewan McGregor when he was in
Okay,
Christopher Robin. I'm like, Obi-Wan with Winnie the
always-
Pooh.
He's always Obi-Wan. I don't care what show he's in. He's always Obi-Wan from here on out.
It's
I
over,
do
Winnie.
love-
I have the high ground.
Yes.
I have all my Obi-Wan figures above my door, so he permanently has the high ground. Just throwing that.
Nice. Well played. Well played. On my shelf, for my Funko Pops, Obi-Wan is on the shelf above Anakin.
As you
Very
should.
fitting. Very fitting.
So I needed to make sure he had the high ground. So, but yeah, I did the
Always.
same thing.
I have a little Obi-Wan figure, and every time he has to be on the highest shelf possible.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
No matter
It's
what,
a
he
thing.
will always have the high ground.
He must be.
Um,
All right, so let's talk about the change of Anakin from being a small child and one that was, no matter what your thoughts are on it, he was, Anakin was a cute little kid doing, cute little kid things and just being a kid and being hopeful and had a good outlook on the future and all these other things. Very trusting of everyone around him. And then he becomes a teenager, and we have teenager Anakin, who's now getting kind of caught in the cycle of the Jedi and everything that's happening around him. So the question is did the Jedi do enough to help him, or was there something more that they could have done?
Nope. The Jedi.
Well,
suck.
I think
Well-
the thing that Anakin lacked the most was a father figure. He
Mhm.
never had a dad when he was on Tatooine, wasn't he technically like a Jesus birth?
yeah, he was like a
Like he was made with the
He
Force
was
or
miraculous
whatever.
exception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love the excuse me, I love the there's a theory out there, something that Anakin would have been so much better off if Qui-Gon had actually lived and been his master, because he actually understood what was going on, whereas Obi-Wan was just kind of thrust into it. He basically made a promise to Qui-Gon that he would train the boy. And I don't think he really wanted to do that, whereas Qui-Gon was very much ready to train Anakin and be like the father figure that he needed. And so I think when Qui-Gon died, That was the real change in trajectory when it comes to Anakin and where he went.
That was
I buy into that.
Oh, sorry. That was actually a thing mentioned by Dave Filoni. The
Okay.
Duel of Fates was literally
Maybe that's where I heard that from.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the duel of Anakin's fate.
Right.
And this is where you go to Obi-Wan going, "You were my brother, Anakin." Anakin didn't need a brother; he needed a father.
Dad. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Qui-Gon was the father, or would have been the surrogate father figure. And it's the same thing as like if you have a sibling and suddenly your parent is gone and now you're the parent, but you're also the sibling.
Right.
How do
It's
you
not
do
quite
that?
the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not quite the same. I mean, because now, like what you're saying, and I buy into that 1,000%, because Qui-Gon chose. It wasn't like he basically adopted Anakin, and he chose to be that father figure for Anakin, and that was what Anakin needed at the time. But now you have Obi-Wan, who's thrust into a mode of which he was not ill prepared for. He was in no way, shape, or form ready or wanting to be that person. He was just a Padawan himself, and all of a sudden I was like, "Well, I guess I'm your master. I guess we'll figure this right. I guess we'll figure this out."
He literally got knighted at this 20 minutes prior to the ceremony on Naboo.
Yeah,
like that was basically it. Was just Obi-Wan being like,
"All right, come on out,
the kid," and it's like, Yoda's just sitting there like, "Oh, what do I do? Fine, take him."
Yeah.
But as for if the Jedi did enough, I'm gonna say yes. With what they had in place, with what they knew to do, it's the same thing of if you have a friend that is depressed or having issues, you can't force them into therapy. It'll either do nothing or the opposite of what you want it to do. Everyone gave Anakin every opportunity. Obi-Wan was there to talk. Ahsoka was there to talk. Yoda, so many people, but instead, he took counsel with a manipulative person. And I know it's very difficult to be in that situation, to see someone and go, I trust you, when they have your worst interests at heart.
Right.
But at the same time, they tried everything they could to allow him to open up. Obi-Wan gave him every opportunity to admit him and Padme were together. Every possible chance.
And I think that's what really doomed Anakin was the fact that he held that secret for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
I mean, Obi-Wan fell for Satine, so he would totally understand the love there. And it never says. I don't think the Jedi Code ever says that like having a girlfriend is forbidden. It's just the attachment. Like you just can't be, if that said partner were to die, you have to be able to let go of that attachment, which clearly Anakin cannot do that. But Obi-Wan was a really good example where he was able to kind of to let that go when it came to
Was
Satine.
he though?
I think so. I mean, eventually he was. It took him a little bit, but he definitely
it took him a little while. Yeah, it took him a little while to get over Satine's death, but even in the animated series, we see that Obi-Wan clearly knew that there was something going on.
Oh, he says it in Clone Wars. He's like, "Tell Padme I said hello."
Yeah, at the
exactly.
Very end, at the very end,
where Fives is outside of the
Rex. At that point, Fives is dead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
He was covering the door, and he's like, "Anakin."
Last minute quarters check.
Mm-hmm.
He's checking my gear. Yeah.
So in that case, should Obi-Wan have actually like come out and admitted that a long time ago, like way before that, and just been like, "Dude, I know what's going on. Just let it out so we can work on it."
I guarantee he did. It's also in the old Dark Horse comics in the Clone Wars. This is prior to Disney buying everything. Anakin gets like basically a couple days off. The Jedi Council's like, "Hey, you've been on the front lines for months. Take a vacation. 2 weeks, go off." He, without telling anyone, charters a brand new ship, disappears, goes to Naboo, hangs out with Padme, and in the middle of that, Obi-Wan literally shows up and goes, "Hey, I need your help with a mission."
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't question it, doesn't say how he immediately knew where he was on Naboo with Padme, and they're like, Anakin's like in like a silk kimono and just underwear, and Padme is basically in the same. And Obi-Wan flat out says, "I don't care. I need your help."
Right.
Like, it was so clear that Obi-Wan and Ahsoka knew what was going on. Yoda probably had an idea. I don't know. Just as for your comment, though, about having a girlfriend, that's technically not allowed. In a weird way, the attachment's not allowed. But if you read, I think it's Master and Apprentice, which is a canon book, there's a Jedi in there who does the deed with multiple people, and Qui-Gon comments on it, and it's like, the Jedi code says nothing about abstinence, just not attachment. It's like,
and that's what I was thinking too. Like, I mean, you still gotta carry the race on, right? I mean, like Yoda, I mean, he's a very rare species. You would think he would want to continue his race.
And somebody
Yoda
who
and Yaddle, Grogu had to show up somehow.
you need.
You can't tell me that Yoda and Yaddle didn't do the battle. So
another canonically partnered Jedi Council member is Ki-Adi-Mundi. He had like 14 spouses
had a lot.
or something because his
like the
people
Mormon.
were technically endangered. So he had 14 partners and like 100 kids. Yeah.
Sounds horrible.
I mean, he was like, "May the Force be with you," and peaced out back to Coruscant every time he could.
And may the Force be with you, and especially you. So, okay, but to counter Ben's point from earlier about the Jedi doing all they could, I don't think they did, because they held Anakin at arm's length, especially Yoda and Mace Windu. And why? Because they were fearful of him. They were fearful of him, of his powers. They knew what he was capable of force-wise. They knew that he was unsteady or unstable emotionally because of everything that he had gone through and the lack of attachments that this kid was struggling with. And it's even highlighted in Phantom Menace, where he's talks about his mother and he feels cold, and there's the detachment, and you know, his mind focuses on his mother because, of course, he's a little guy. That's all he's only ever been around. But throughout the rest of his life, every time that there was a time for the Jedi to show that they had faith and trust in Anakin Skywalker, Mace Windu and Yoda pushed him away, pushed him back, and said, "No, you can't do this. You can't do this." So of course he's going to go look for somebody else who's going to. Anybody would. So like, okay, so Ben, in this situation, if you were the Yoda and Kathleen was Mace Windu, and every time I came to you and said, "Look, this is what's going on," you're like, you know, you give me pushback. Of course, I'm going to go to Darth Josh over here and be like, "Hey, I need somebody to talk to."
What I was going to say is Yoda definitely kept him at an arm's length, but for a different reason, because he embodied the whole Jedi detachment a bit more. Plus, he's 900 years old. So many people he has known have died. So that's where he gets his detachment. And he actually says that in, I think it's one of the High Republic books, I think. But when it comes to Mace Windu, I fully agree that he was Anakin's number one enemy. Meanwhile, you have things like when Yoda was going off to go hang out with the Wills, and he was going to learn how to live on after death through the Force, he went to Anakin and said, "Hey, can I trust you to keep a secret? Can I trust you to take the fall for this?" And Anakin went, "Yeah." Yoda had more trust in Anakin than any of the other council members, but Mace Windu, being such a high seniority thing, pretty much shot down everything. In fact, it was Yoda who said that they should knight Anakin at the beginning of the Clone Wars.
That's true.
Mace Windu kept saying, "No, no, no." Obi-Wan is fighting, and Yoda's like, "Do it. Make him a knight. Let's see what happens." And it was also Yoda who gave him Ahsoka. That sounds weird. Attached Ahsoka and Anakin together, hoping to teach him to let
Padawan
go.
Padawan Master.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Hoping to teach Anakin to let go. That was exactly why Yoda assigned them together.
No, I get that, but even
he wasn't doing it the right way.
Well, and I think that's probably the better way to say what I was trying to say is that Mace Windu definitely was not trusting and definitely was pushing him away on every chance he got. Yoda may have been trying, but he was going about it instead of going just, hey, here's the way to do it. He was kind of circumventing everything else and kind of going around the corner instead of going right, straight at the topic. So I think that when we look at it from that angle, I think we have to see that there's a certain level of distrust from the Jedi Masters, the Council, down to the Knights, down to the Padawans.
Yeah. Through all of that too, they're telling him, "You're the chosen one. You're going to do all these wonderful things. You have such great power." But no, not yet. Don't do that yet. We're not going to trust you yet.
But when Mace says
that fear thing, sorry.
Oh, it's definitely a fear thing. Absolutely, I fully believe it was, especially from Mace Windu, because when Mace would say it, it was always in a sarcastic, challenging tone.
Yeah.
Well, if you really are the chosen one, he just needed a little more head bob in it. If you really are the chosen, but it was just, I never felt, and I really think that T.C. Carson does a really good job of this in the animated series as well, maintaining that line as the voice of Mace Windu during the animated series. There's a couple of times when Mace and Anakin have to work a little closer side by side, and there is a very icy cold wall there between the two of them.
Oh yeah.
That every time they're in the same room, that Mace immediately puts up and kind of blocks him off.
They're specifically with that, I believe it was when they first meet Boba Fett. Mace and Anakin are basically hunting him down, thinking that Jango is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
They get trapped. There's an explosion. They're now under a crushing piece of starship that's going to kill them.
Right.
Anakin sends off R2 being like, "Go get help, please." And Windu is just flat out like, "You're trusting a droid, you idiot." It's like, bro, that's your only way of getting out of there, and you are berating this man for trusting basically his best friend.
The most trustworthy droid ever.
Literally.
The ride or die droid right there.
The only one
the Republic would have fallen long ago if it wasn't for R2, and the Rebel Alliance never would have won if it wasn't for R2.
Right.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
That being said, Chopper still has the highest kill count.
Yes, he does.
My little war buddy. My little war crime buddy.
Yeah, he's just
I want to get... There's a sticker that I want to get that's literally just Chopper holding a little missile and a stick of dynamite, and it just says, "Let's commit war crimes." I'm like, oh, my little war criminal Chopper.
Just to go off on a tangent, I can't wait till they actually let him commit a war crime in live action, because they teased it a couple times in Ahsoka. But
Ahsoka right away, immediately, he's on screen for 30 seconds. I don't know.
Should we blow it up?
Yeah, he wants to carpet. Yeah, he wants to carpet bomb the whole city. 30 seconds on camera, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, they'll let him do it eventually, though. He'll carpet bomb.
Oh, they have to.
Sure.
They have to. He's gonna bomb a Star Destroyer or something, blow another one up.
I love how in Rebels you can kind of hear Chopper speak, but in Ahsoka he's full on just regular talking with a little warble in his voice, and you're like, oh, I don't need subtitles to know what Chopper's saying.
Did you touch my stuff?
Did you touch my stuff? Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I love that. So good.
I love Chopper.
Oh, he's so sassy. But anyway.
All right, so
just getting back to Mace, I feel like he was more scared than anything, and that's why he just didn't want to let Anakin. Because, I mean, you have to think, if he's the chosen one to bring balance to the Force, the Jedi have to know that there's a huge imbalance between the Sith and the Jedi, and that it's gonna have to be a catalyst, a huge event, a destructive event to actually bring peace back, to bring that balance back. And it was Anakin. He did bring balance back, essentially.
Yeah.
He helped kill all the Jedi to where, unless if you're just watching the movies, episodes 1 through 6, then at the end of episode 3, you had 2 Jedi and 2 Sith. You had, Obi-Wan and Yoda, and Darth Vader and Palpatine, and that was the complete balance.
Right.
And
so he did actually, but that's what I'm saying is, if you're just watching the movies, it gets a little murky once you start getting into everything else. But
but then they kind of balance that with the Inquisitors anyway.
Inquisitors, yep.
Yeah.
So there was a balance, and Mace Windu was absolutely scared that that's how that balance was going to happen. So, I mean, I can see where he was coming from, but at the same time, like, man,
It's also when it comes to Mace, like canonically with his purple lightsaber, he had a vision that he was going to basically herald a great battle, and he saw a vision of himself wielding a purple blade, and that's why he went to go find that kyber crystal, because originally I think he had like a green blade,
it was
and then
blue.
he eventually was it blue? Yeah. So then he eventually found the purple crystal, and that's what he had. So he's had visions of war for an incredibly long time, and now here's war on his doorstep, and he can only blame one person for some reason.
Yeah.
So it is also incredibly sad when you read the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, and it talks about how Mace goes, okay, if Anakin helps me, I will give him the rank of master, because then he has earned my trust. And like, he has saved you so many
Multiple
times. If you trusted him prior to this, he would have helped you defeat Palpatine.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't want anybody listening to get it twisted, like, oh, we're dumping on Mace Windu. He's still a heck of a character. Mace
absolutely.
Windu was an amazing Jedi, and he had a lot of really good things, a lot of really good personality traits, an incredibly powerful Force user. But I
just
also
think he had a big part in what happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Bigger
But
part.
you can't look at what happened with Anakin Skywalker without looking at Mace Windu at the same time and going, he is directly responsible or partly responsible for what happened to Anakin.
Mhm.
Because as much as Obi-Wan may have been trying to be the brother and I loved you, Anakin, and all these different things and bring him into the fold, at the same time that's happening, Mace is also pushing back equally as much and pushing him towards Palpatine, and everything that was going on. So
Now, I'm not going to leave Obi-Wan out of this.
John says, I'm trying to remember if Mace Windu made even one correct decision in the entire prequel trilogy. I don't think he did. In the movies, no. In the animated series, all the time. He was correct.
Especially
he was correct.
That original Clone Wars series. Oh, he was a badass.
The original one. I mean,
he made a lot of good He made a lot of good decisions in the Star Wars version, the Cartoon Network the second version, and then the Disney-fied version of it. He still made a lot of good decisions, but they also started showing him in the later seasons as more of the division of between him and Anakin started coming through, and that started affecting his decision-making process, which leads us back to the movies.
I'm going to say no. I don't think Mace Windu ever did. He made a lot of good tactical decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came
personal decisions, no.
Yeah, I think that might be what John is kind of meaning there, but I don't know. But when it came to like the downfall of the Jedi Order, Yoda was a big part of it, but Mace Windu was like the Grand Master of the Jedi Order for years, and then during the Clone Wars, Yoda took back over as a sign of like, hey, they need, someone with a bit more wisdom, a bit more time. And it was basically just like oh, look, the favorite is now back in power, so we're going to win. That's why Yoda took back the Grand Master title. Mace Windu was the one who was Grand Master for, I think, like a decade prior.
Right, yeah.
So it's just... Sorry.
And then he went through the window.
Yes. But before we go on to the next thing...
to the wall. Anyway.
Before we go on to the next... I want to talk about that it's not just Mace Windu. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka are also 1,000% in this, could have done more, but I still think they did more than enough.
Okay, with the caveat to that is, I don't blame Ahsoka because she was going through enough crap on her own, and she was only about 15 years of age.
I don't blame them at all. Sorry, when I said Ahsoka, I meant what happened with Ahsoka, not literally Ahsoka being an issue. I mean like everything that went down with Ahsoka, of the betrayal, the blaming, the just throwing her under the bus because they needed
removal
a
from the Jedi Order. Yeah. Okay.
And her eventually getting brought back in and then leaving.
Okay.
That's what
I'm okay with.
And I misspoke. That's my bad.
Okay, because I was like, hold up a second. She was 15. It's kind of hard to blame
Yeah,
a 15-year-old for understanding mental stuff when she's basically a child warrior.
That was my bad. Sorry.
Way to go.
But everything that happened with that was definitely like Anakin was at the door of the Jedi Temple at that point, just waiting for something to finally make him take the step out. And of course, everything that happened after the fact didn't make it better. But Obi-Wan also keeping Anakin at arm's reach, because he was, despite being brotherly, he knew what he needed to be and chose not to do it. Like, he could have been the father Anakin needed. Granted, it would have been very difficult, but it still could have been done.
How old was Obi-Wan when he took over? Wasn't he only 18 or 19 when he
24.
took over for 24? Okay, that's still fairly young.
It is still fairly young, but I mean,
so there's only like 15 years difference between the two of them.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's a difficult
oh yeah,
age gap to look up to somebody as a father. When somebody's only 15 years older. I mean, unless you're in Kentucky. I mean, then it's like 10 years.
I thought you were going to say Ohio.
Close enough.
Close enough. They're neighbors. So,
but again, I still think that in general, aside from
I already made that joke, Tim.
Aside from Windu, I honestly do believe the Jedi did enough. I mean, if we want to talk about doing more than enough, Plo Koon. But my man Plo Koon being shared father of Ahsoka, they did so much to work together to. I think there's a couple scenes in Clone Wars where Plo Koon like actively consoles Anakin to be like, "Hey, things are going to be okay. We're in this together. You want to talk about it?"
Plo was just an awesome.
Oh yeah.
Just an awesome character to begin with.
Don't think that the Jedi Order did enough. I think that they did everything they could to make it worse for him. That they ignored his feelings. They pushed him aside. They told him that he was wrong, that he was a child, he didn't know what he was talking about. That even when he has dreams about his mom dying and Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, you're fine." No, there's something wrong with my mom. Like, I'm trusting my intuition here. No, it's fine. Just let it go. It's like, no. Yeah. All you're doing at that point is showing him that the Jedi Order doesn't care about him. That he's just another cog for them. He's not a person. And, oh, wait, here's this other person who's telling me, no, wait, no, you matter. You have feelings. Your feelings are important. Give in to your feelings. It's like all they did was push him out.
Yeah, of course he's going to lean. Yeah, of course he's going to lean that way, right?
Yeah.
So here's something I want to point out. This is this past year a book was written by Delilah S. Dawson called Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade. Now clearly this book is not about Anakin Skywalker. It's written about completely different characters, and Iskat Akaris is the main character in the story. But it's all about how it's a very similar trajectory, in my opinion, of how this character goes from being a Padawan, very powerful, misunderstood, all these different things, to leaving the Jedi Order and spoilers, although it's really pretty much on the cover of the book, becomes an Inquisitor and all these other things. And it's really very interesting. So if you haven't read that book, check it out, because it's got some very interesting parallels to the Anakin story and how the Jedi Order and Mace Windu treated her. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, let's move on to our last topic of this forum tonight. So this is a quicker one. So the question is, with everything that we've talked about tonight, is Anakin Skywalker a good man who turned to darkness, or a bad man who did good deeds before giving in to his true nature?
I think he was good. I think he was a good kid, but he was only a kid. Like he kind of was stuck in kid world. He got
Mhm.
ripped from his mom, then his like adopted father passed away like 2 days after that, and then he just got thrust into this Jedi training. Too old. He was too old for it.
Too old.
Um,
Too old
and
to
I
be
think
straight.
he was a good kid that had really like good intentions, but then was so pulled in so many different directions that he didn't necessarily know that the decisions he was making were really bad towards the end, until he actually embraced the hate, basically.
Right. I think that is what it comes down to, is that we need to remember he was a kid. You don't trust kids to make massive life-changing decisions. You give a kid $10 and tell them to go buy groceries, they're going to come back with candy. They're not going to make good decisions. Like, Anakin was not old enough to be making good decisions.
Don't worry, they can take out $80,000 in student loans.
18, they
And,
can join the military. No, like...
Genius.
And where he came from, I mean, he was a slave on a desert
Yep.
planet where he didn't see. Did you even see like a body of water ever? When he goes now, he's leaving this planet and seeing so many different things, and the wonder of a child. Like, you're gonna question everything, and
I
so
mean, just the culture shock of going from Tatooine to Coruscant to Naboo,
right,
bare sand, massive city, nothing but green and water.
Well, just
That's
going
kinda
from Tatooine into outer space.
Oh
The shock
yeah,
that it was on his system. Yeah, how cold he was because of the temperature difference between being on a barren desert with 2 suns beating down on you versus being up in outer space.
probably the coldest day on Tatooine's like 95. And that's their equivalent of like freezing winter.
right.
But so Tim will
That's
understand
bullcrap.
this more, I think, than... I don't know if you have any kids or not, Josh. But first day of school, it doesn't matter if it's first day of kindergarten or if it's the first day of any following year after that. That kid has so much anxiety going into a new situation, a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as parents, it's fine. We'll pick you up at the end of the day. You'll be fine. It's 6 hours. This was a 9-year-old being taken off the planet from his mother. The only source of any amount of security he's ever had. The only thing that has been consistent in his entire life is his mom. To then be, you have this amazing power. You're going to change you're going to change the course of history. We're going to take you with us. And then, no, never mind. Your power's too scary. We can't train you, but you also can't go back to your mom. Like, he was a kid. He was so corrupted by what was around him that if you look at the psychological aspect of what happened to him, he was, in all reality, kidnapped and forced into this new life. He was no longer Anakin. He was a Padawan. He was a knight. He wasn't a person.
I mean, if you technically think about it, Anakin was never freed from being a slave.
No.
He was sold to Qui-Gon and the Jedi Order.
Right.
And Obi-Wan basically took that on.
Oh.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and that I've thought that same thing for a long time, where he just went from
never free.
one slave to the next one.
Yeah, and then going from the Jedi Order to then following Palpatine. He's not any
being a slave to the dark side.
Yeah,
Anakin was always kind of a slave, and
the
never
only
never
one,
break out of that.
The only time he ever gets
a
to be
slave
free.
It was with Padme. That was the only time he was not a slave.
He still was, though, because he was a slave to hiding it.
He was allowed to be free with her, which is...
I would say right.
But when it was just her,
now.
When it was just her, yeah. But honestly, Ben, I have never thought of that before, and literally my brain went booming. Yeah,
very much like Anakin. If anyone hit the switch on him, because they never mention. Yeah, that's it.
That
Anakin
was the only time he was
freed by Luke. That was the only time he was truly free. Was the
and he even says
removal of the helmet.
Right. He tells Luke that you've already set me. You just set me free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said you saved me.
Yeah.
So I think seeing him in Ahsoka, that's probably the freest he's ever been.
Oh yeah,
he's free to do whatever he wants,
including
scare the crap out of us in the world between worlds. That's what he was able to do.
Beat up his old apprentice.
Well, according to The Last Jedi, or sorry, Rise of Skywalker, Force ghosts can actually hold lightsabers, so I'm pretty sure Anakin could probably still do whatever he wants in the real world.
Hold on, I'm trying to find that remove button for bringing up that movie.
All right. We were just talking about the hatred of the prequels. We're not going to get into the hatred of the sequels.
No. I
If you
don't
look
hate.
at
I don't
real
hate the Rise of Skywalker. I just don't like it. There are some good things in that movie. There are some things that I enjoy other than the credits. So,
right. But if you look at the real world aspect of it too, if you have somebody who grows up in foster care and is bounced from house to house, from family to family, never has a place of their own, never has
So
a name
jaded.
of their own,
so jaded.
they are so jaded. They are,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, the statistics show that the majority of criminals are those who had unstable home lives.
Yeah.
That Anakin is nothing more than the product of his surroundings.
Absolutely.
He is
Yeah.
what the Jedi Order made him.
It's also that with most of the other Padawans and most of the other younglings, they were brought into it at an incredibly young age. They probably don't have memories of their home prior.
Right.
Anakin
Very few
knows
would.
what it's like on the outside. Even if he wasn't free, he knew something different and then was brought in.
Right. And like
Which
in
gives
that,
a
that
whole other
same,
perspective.
that same sort of thing. Obi-Wan says, I think I had a brother. He talks about thinking that maybe he remembers a little glimpse of he might have had another life. But like you said, Anakin knew what it was like. Anakin knew.
He knew what it was like to have the love of his mother.
And he had actual friends that he played with and hung out with and stuff.
He had to go work at Watto's.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to go work at Watto's shop and everything, but at the end of the day, he was playing around with Greedo and the other kids in the neighborhood doing, pod racer stuff and whatever else, but he was being a kid.
Yeah, they were able to be kids. It wasn't just meditate, lightsaber practice, go to sleep, get up, do it again.
Right.
I say he's a good man who turned to darkness. He absolutely, I think he had good intentions, and I think just the reality of life and the lack of proper oversight in his life is what turned him towards dark things.
And even in
confusion.
Absolutely.
Turning toward darkness, his motives for turning toward darkness were not entirely wrong.
They were pretty noble.
As the saying goes,
whoopsies.
Some of the worst things were done with the best intentions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also, you got to take into account, one of the things that gets me is when people are like, oh, but he wanted more power. He was clearly bad to begin with. His entire life has been structured around people having more power than him. That's all he knows.
Right.
People having control and that power being used to control him.
So he figured, if I have more power, I can save more people.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
It
and
was
in all honesty,
slavery, then the Jedi, then Palpatine, that everything has been, I just need to be more powerful than the next guy. And then I can help everyone.
I think really what really does push him over the edge is the loss of his mother.
Yeah.
Because even though he had not seen her for years, the fact of knowing that she was alive and well through the Force, I think is one thing that kind of anchored him to some degree. Once she's gone, that anchor is removed, and now he becomes overly concerned. It's like somebody with PTSD. When somebody has PTSD, they become
PTSD.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But when you suffer from that level of PTSD, you become overly concerned about yourself, your surroundings, your security, the people around you, all these different things. Anakin is definitely going through this. There is definitely a mental health issue here, and with what he's going through and how he's approaching it and attacking it and all these different things, and he doesn't have the resources at hand to handle this. And so when it comes down to it, his motives are pure because they're altruistic in the sense that if I have this power, I can make sure that Padme never dies. They're slightly selfish. I'll give you that, because he can't handle another loss.
Anchor.
Right. Exactly.
In finding Padme, he found comfort in his mom.
Right. He found what he didn't have.
I mean,
for sure.
Oedipus shows us that, like, you have that. As much as the Oedipus complex is disturbing, you do look for the traits of your parents in your spouse because that's what's comfortable. That's what you know. Women frequently look for men who have similar traits to their father. Men frequently look for traits similar to their moms, and it's true though. It is in there. It's in there, and so Anakin found somebody that he found comfort with, and then when it was well, wait, no, she could die. I can't lose her like I've lost mom.
I think that's probably. So this is just me throwing it into the universe. I think that's why Padme is the only one allowed to call Anakin Annie.
Mm-hmm.
This is also why when Shmi says it and Padme says it, they say it almost exactly the same. Now that you're making me think about it.
Yeah.
But to Tim's point, the whole thing with the mom like setting him off and setting him on the path of the dark side, that is 1,000% true because that was also preventable.
Mm-hmm. If Obi-Wan had believed him, if Obi-Wan had said, just go check on her.
Yeah. Or even just went with him. Just went like,
right.
Hey, this could be a learning experience. Let's get you out in the world. Because at that point, I mean, canonically, Anakin and Obi-Wan probably went on like maybe a total of like 4 missions prior to the Clone Wars. That's not a lot. Other Jedi and other Padawans, the moment they're assigned like a master, they're off doing stuff.
Right.
They have to go out in the world and learn experiences. So the fact that Anakin was kept in the temple for such a long time and barely did anything outside of it, he didn't learn what he needed to. Like that's
God, it's just this is another reason to read Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah S. Dawson.
So,
honestly, it's almost the same thing. It's scary how similar. I mean, there's enough changes between the story and everything. It's not like she was like, "Oh, let's make a girl version of Anakin," but yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Yeah.
And so Tim, I saw the face, but think about I saw the face you made about the men marrying they look for the traits of their mom and their wife. Think about the way that Shayna is with your kids, and how your mom was with you.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, it's there. It's totally there. And as Shayna becomes a grandma, you're going to see it even more. Like, it'll sneak up on you.
It's uncanny how similar my girlfriend is with my mother. It's weird. It's really weird. But it makes sense.
Well, hey, would you look at that time? We got more to cover here.
I'm having a difficult time putting those together because like my wife and my mom are not the same, like at all. I don't
see, and I don't personally see the connection between my mother and my wife because they are so very different. I love my mother. Don't get me wrong. I love my mother dearly. She's a wonderful woman who's done a great many things in her life. But my wife is specifically different, and I wanted somebody who was not my mother.
Right. Right, but even in her caregiver tendencies, was still there. You know what, John?
Bingo.
And I don't think it's like awkward, and it's not like, oh my gosh, I was looking for someone that was exactly like my mother or something like that. But there are definite little tendencies, like for instance, just decorating for holidays, something that my mom always did back in the day. And over time, I've dated girls and stuff that never did that, and my current girlfriend loves to decorate. And I was like, oh, that's weird. My mom does that same thing, and it's just kind of, I don't think you realize that it happens until that one little instance comes down and you're like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong, John. She is
But
awesome.
It's funny is like
I love my mommy, and now you know.
I've noticed it with my husband, even with there've been a couple of things with him that I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's totally how dad would have reacted to that. Or seeing the way that he interacts with our daughter, that I'm like, oh yeah, no, that was me and dad. Like it's kind of cool. And then it's funny is like, so with my mother-in-law living with us, and there have been points in time where my husband's like, oh gosh, what have I done? I'm like,
oh, no.
Nice, you're stuck. Deal.
Way to go, stupid.
And yet my mother-in-law and I are incredibly different at the same time. She is very, very domestic housewife, and I am the feral raccoon that lives in the garage. Like,
Everyone needs a feral raccoon.
We do. I'm a trophy wife. It's a participation trophy, but I'm a trophy wife.
All right. So where do we settle up on this? I said he was a good man that went to darkness. Josh,
Same.
same. Ben,
Yeah, I'm gonna. There's caveats to it, but for the sake of it, yes, he good.
Agreed.
Good
Okay.
man turned bad.
Kathleen.
I struggle with he was never really a man. He was a child.
Yeah, he was basically a kid.
But no, he wanted to be good. He was just incredibly misguided.
He was like the Michael Jackson of Star Wars. He just never grew up.
Right.
I mean, when you really think about it, Anakin turns to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader at 24 years old.
Yeah.
We all do
Yeah,
a lot of bad
24.
things at 24, let's be honest.
Like, if we're going by actual human physiology, his brain is not even fully developed
Right.
until next year.
Yeah.
And he's been manipulated since he was 9 by the guy who would turn him into Darth Vader.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is your
Yeah.
grooming. Not between him and Padme, but between him and Palpatine.
Oh yeah, that's
He was Palpatine absolutely groomed him for sure.
First thing he said, we're going to
1000%.
look at your career with great interest. Like he was immediately grooming the kid.
That was probably the
Uncomfortable.
creepiest line in
Yeah.
Phantom Menace.
yeah.
It really was.
That made me
And I-
uncomfortable when I heard it as a kid. And I'm like,
Yeah.
who's this guy?
Danger, danger!
Because at that point, I didn't know that Emperor Palpatine
See,
was.
I knew,
Palpatine.
like,
They
I
just
didn't
referred to him
know.
as the Emperor. I don't think they ever. Did they ever mention Palpatine's
toys. It was toys, man. They always had the
Yeah.
toys that came out with their names. And so I had a
Yeah.
ton of Star Wars toys when I was a kid as well. And when I had that Emperor Palpatine one, and then
I
Senator
was-
Palpatine shows up, and I'm like, no way.
See, what's funny is like I remember when Senator Palpatine showed up, and I looked at him, and I looked at my brothers who had taken me to the movie theater, and I'm like, "That's the bad guy from the other movies." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's the guy that no, that's the bad guy." Like,
Insidious. You're like, oh, geez, just lift
Yeah,
the hood up a little bit, and you're Emperor Palpatine.
I heard him called Sidious before, but I've never, like, prior to pretty much when the prequels came out, I was given Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, toy lightsabers. I think I had like one Darth Vader, because I'm pretty sure my mom didn't want me having any toys of bad guys, because she thought that equals I become a bad guy.
Well,
Either way,
that's how it works. It's just like you sleep under your pillow, osmosis comes up and through the pillow.
Yeah.
You know?
my kid is gonna be so messed up then.
Yeah, so
She frequently sleeps
but I
with the
never got an
kid.
Emperor
That's so funny.
Palpatine toy, so I had no idea.
and the
Captain
Power of the
Palpatine.
Force released the Emperor Palpatine with the walking stick toy, and that was one of the main lines that it was 96 or 97 that Christmas. My parents went nuts and got as many Star Wars toys as they could and just threw them in a box, and one of them was Palpatine. So that's
Gotcha.
kind of how
Okay.
I don't know. I learned a lot about like random characters because they didn't know. They didn't know anything. They just grabbed all the figures. Like I had the weird guys from in the cantina, and like
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
That's cool that your parents did that though. That's awesome.
it was a good
that is-
Christmas.
that is great.
I'm only
do
mostly
also
jealous because
Find
I
it,
didn't have any really cool toys when I was a kid.
I do find it funny that Disney renamed the musical genre.
Oh
That-
jeez, it
Yeah,
will always forever be known as Jizz. I don't care what anybody says.
what did they change it to? They changed
Jizz?
it
Jazz. J
Oh, Jazz, that's
J-
what it is.
Yeah,
J-A-T-Z.
no,
Jazz.
it's jizz music. Okay, that is
Yeah.
not going away.
All right. So, Josh, let's remind everybody where they can find you at Quest Me Podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Best place is on Twitter at Quest Me Podcast. We're also on Instagram and Threads, and I do a lot on the TikToks. Just search Quest Me Podcast. All of our latest episodes and stuff are on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all the places, and we have our YouTube channel as well, Quest Me
Yeah.
Podcast.
It's good stuff, guys. Check it out. I enjoy their show quite a bit.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, you guys do a good job over there. So, and just as a reminder for those of you who have not yet, if you don't sign up, you can't win. Well, what can you win? you can win movies. We have some digital movies we want to send your way. Our first drawing is November 1st, and you have the opportunity to win Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Vindicta, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. All three of those are up for grab. We have multiples of each one. So if you haven't already, click that link right there. Go to fsfpopcast.com/contact, and you can enter your email address, and you'll have an opportunity to win a free digital movie. So I want to make sure that you guys know that and take advantage of that. So yeah, win some free loot. Give us your email address, and I promise the only thing that you're going to get is a free movie and maybe a newsletter from time to time with just some special show announcements and stuff like that. But we also will be handling some random email drawings from time to time. And if we already have your email address, you're already entered to win. How cool is that? So yeah,
So cool.
Get free stuff.
Alrighty. I'm hoping Tim actually updated stuff this week. Anyway,
I did.
I'm so proud of you. I actually knew that looking at it.
I know, right?
All right. Last Friday, we aired our interview with Brendan Wayne.
Great episode.
Fantastic episode. The one and only beautiful man, Pedro Pascal, may be the voice. He may be Disney's face, but Brendan Wayne and his buddy Lateef are the body. Wow.
Good job.
My brain went.
Lateef does have a body. I'm just saying.
They are the body.
Quite a body.
It is. I mean, that might have been where the confusions got there. Anyway.
Oh.
But we talked to Brendan about the suit that he wears and why. Or the suit that he wears, why this is the way, but also about his, slightly sort of famous grandfather. Might have heard of him. Maybe. John Wayne? Anybody? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Duke. Also, the reason behind the ongoing actors' strike. And why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up. What?
Really good
the actors' strike is still happening.
Yeah.
But
he gives
because
really
of
good
John
insight
Wayne?
into that.
No.
Not because of John Wayne.
Okay, I was like, wait, what?
No, but he goes into why the actor strike is happening, what's going on with it.
Got it.
All these different things. But he is also the grandson of John Wayne, and talks about there is a really interesting part in there about how, like, all this stuff about AI, that if AI were to try to make a John Wayne movie today, could it be done? Sure. There's enough images of John Wayne out there. There's enough of his voice recorded where they could do it, but would it have the essence, the personality, the who John Wayne was?
Nope.
No. So there's a really neat clip about that.
I had so much fun with this interview and just watching Brendan try to talk about things without talking about things.
Trying to talk loops around one topic.
The gymnastics to get around certain topics. We're going to try and have him back on the show once the strike is over, so we can actually talk about some of these things, including the show that's in the that's mentioned there in the image. But we had a great time
talking about the show and the studio and the people, and I'm like, oh man.
I would love to be. I don't remember. Was this recorded before I jumped in, or was I just not? Okay, that's
it was right. It was right before you joined up on the show.
Yep.
I want to be part of it next time, please.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk to you guys.
I don't know. It depends on whether or not, your whole day job and adult life.
I'm sorry. I need money to live, okay?
Way to be a functional adult.
Gosh, Ben.
I got to get a job with okay pay and decent benefits. God.
Oh,
dare you.
Take care of your family. Disgusting.
The fact that we need, this abstract green piece of paper that honestly doesn't exist. We need that to eat.
It's all an illusion.
Like,
it's mythical.
They had a vote on, was food a human right, and the only one person said no. Can you guess who? We'll find that out later. But you can still find this episode and many of our other ones on our YouTube channel and where your favorite podcast providers, especially Good Pods. Remember, your subscription to our YouTube channel is a major help, so please don't forget to click the like and subscribe. as you watch our videos, which would be great. And I was going to say another thing. Patreon. Patreon's great too.
Please like the Patreon. Patreon likes you.
Mhm.
But then also this upcoming Friday, we have an amazing interview with PJ Harzma. PJ is an author, he's a producer, and one of the faces of Couch Soup, which is a really cool pop culture website, which does a lot with video games and some other things like that. But one of the reasons why we had him on there, if you see that in the middle of the screen there, it says Con Man. If you've never watched the show Con Man, it's available right now on Freevee, which is an Amazon Prime thing, which you can watch it on there as well. But it's a show that he did with Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion, and it's about this make-believe sci-fi world called Spectrum, which just happens to so resemble Firefly, and it's amazing. And it not only does it have Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion in it, I'm pretty sure the rest of Hollywood has at least a 3-second cameo somewhere in that movie, in that show. The list of cameos is almost too big to share, but there's so much going on in this interview, and it's an amazing chat. So don't miss out on that one. Now, the thing is, this comes out this upcoming Friday, but if you don't want to wait till Friday, we should have this out on our Patreon channel tomorrow, Wednesday at the absolute latest, usually a couple days early. For those of you who are on our Patreon channel, give you a couple days early access, and you guys can check it out there. Now, to get early access to the audio and video files, that's only 3 whole George Washingtons a month. If you stepped it up to the $10, you also get the background bonus footage when the episode comes out. And after a couple months, you get a free coffee mug that nobody else can get, because it's only a Patreon bonus. So, but yeah, there's lots of other things going on there. But yeah, so check that out with PJ Harzma this upcoming Friday. That is a really cool interview. PJ was an absolute ton of fun to talk to. And of course, so was Brendan Wayne. So, but yeah. So we're going to be back in a couple weeks. We'll be off next week. Monday, we'll have a replay for you guys to watch. And then we'll be back in a couple weeks. I think our next one is, I don't know. I'm not going to say what it is because I have to look at the calendar and I don't have it handy. So anyway, until then, thank you for watching, and, goodbye and stuff. So,
Okay, bye.
Thank you for being on
on behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF podcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSF Podcast, or go to www.fsfpodcast.com and click on the contact link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.